online doodle design, and today for my Doodling with Debbie feature for SNOWMAN stamp, I'm using a few characters from the picture book die series to create this cute Christmas card using a no-line die cutting technique. I love the look of no-line colouring, stamping an image in a pale ink and then colouring so the original line is no longer visible. In the same way as the stamping technique, no-line die cutting results in a coloured image without any black lines, and the picture book die series from SNOWMAN stamp are perfect for this. I die cut the picture book snowman, picture book deer and picture book Santa from Neenah solo white card, and there are several small die cuts which together make up each of the characters. I'm going to take each piece and colour with Copic markers. You could die cut the pieces from a variety of different coloured cards to give a similar result, but I like the extra life the images have by colouring with markers and adding simple shading. For the smallest pieces I mainly use one marker to colour, but for the larger pieces I use 3 or more markers to shade the area. I kept the shading simple by using the darkest colour around the edges or down the left side. I usually start by laying down the shadow areas with the lightest colour, and then add the medium colour and finally the darkest colour, and then work my way back through the medium colour to the lightest colour again. I'm far from skilled at Copic colouring, but I find this method works for me. You could glue the various pieces straight onto your card, but I like to add dimension to my cards and want to be able to pop the images up on foam adhesive. To be able to do this, I glued each of the pieces to white card and trimmed them out. I trimmed them keeping the scissors at an angle so that I undercut the white layer slightly. Hopefully you can see that on the back of the deer that the white layer is just slightly smaller than the top layer and so won't be visible when mounted on the card. I added a pair of wiggle eyes using Range Multimedia Matte to keep them in place. Then I took that glue and rubbed a blob of it over the antlers and then dumped them into a tub of rock candy distress glitter before adhering them to the back of the deer's head with a glue dot. I then set Rudolph aside to dry and carried on the Copic colouring with the snowman and Santa. With colouring the 3 characters, there was a fair amount of colouring, even though I kept it simple, and some of the pieces were quite small to colour and I certainly got marker on my fingers. However, I love how they turned out and do feel the effort was worth it. On the colouring front, be it Copic or other media, it's worth knowing that a mid-brown is a great way to add shadows to red areas. I added some rosy cheeks of Santa and drew half circles in a light grey to give the impression of a wavy beard. As with Rudolph, I glued the pieces for the snowman and Santa to white card and then trimmed out and added wiggle eyes. The colouring wasn't quite finished as I had Rudolph's and the snowman's scarf still to do. Having coloured the scarf for Rudolph in a nice muted blue, I then drew a plaid pattern with a white gel pen. Finally I added the 2 scarves with foam adhesive, and I've just realised that this is when I added Rudolph's antlers with a glue dot. I added some sparkle to Santa's and the snowman's outfits, and realised that Santa was looking a little cross-eyed, so I corrected that, and then I set these characters aside while I worked on the rest of the card. I'm going to use the Hope sentiment from the stained glass greeting set by SNOWMAN stamp. I want to have the sentiment say ho ho ho, and so I'm just going to use the first 2 letters from the Hope sentiment. I placed a piece of black card in the mini misty and treated it with the EK Success powder tool. This powder will prevent any embossing powder sticking where I don't want it to. I then stamped the sentiment in clear embossing ink and sprinkled with white embossing powder before heat setting. I lined up the matching stained glass greetings die and kept it in place with washi tape before running it through my die cutting machine. I then used scissors to carefully cut away the end of the sentiment to leave just the first 2 letters. I repeated this 3 times so that I had the full complement for the ho 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 greeting. I then set these aside while I worked on the background panel. On a piece of Neenah solo white card I blended Lake Shores ink into the top third of the panel. I then splattered this area with a solution of perfect pearls. This adds a lovely shimmer to the background, but I also wanted to add some snow, and for this I added a blob of white gouache to an acrylic block, mixed it with a little water, and then used my brush to flick white splatter onto the ink blended area. I then made sure the background was fully dry before I arranged all the elements on top. I added foam adhesive to the back of each character and also to the ho 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 sentiment, and then adhered each item in place. I wanted to add an extra sentiment strip from the Fa La La set, and scribbled a red marker on spare white card so that the colour matched Santa's outfit perfectly. I then stamped and white hit embossed the sentiment on top and trimmed to a skinny banner before adhering over the ho 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 sentiment. I added lots of foam adhesive to the back of the panel and then adhered this to a side folding A2 base cut from Neenah Desert Storm card. As one final touch I added glossy accents to Rudolph's nose so that it was nice and shiny, and I've learnt to leave this step until last so that I don't smudge the wet glue by adding it earlier in the making process. Well, that completes this card using the picture book series of dies to give a no-line die cutting look to these fun Christmas characters. On the SNOWMAN stamp blog you'll find a coordinating blog post as well as details of the supplies that I've used today, If you want to find me, I blog over at limedoodledesign.com. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time.